and label things, but then
well, and there's there's an evolutionary, it's arrived for a purpose, right? Mm-hmm. There is value there. And like, you know, when you get into like spiritual vein of living, is there a purpose to showing up with that veil, with that unknowing? That there is a purpose to showing up in a life completely asleep and to having to over and over again be forced with the possibility of waking up. You know, to starting to discover that there's more than just the labels and the other stuff. Yes, it's also part of being human. Mm-hmm. Owning a house, of having a car, or, you know, choosing to have an identity or a career, or saying I am this and I am that, but also I'm not. Mm-hmm. I'm also not Nikki. I'm also not a yoga teacher. There's also something that is not those things.
Yeah, I think having some sort of conceptualization of like a hierarchy of these things. I had someone explaining the symbolism of like the Illuminati symbol, like it's on the American dollar bill, the pyramid with the eye on top. Yeah. It's like, and the Egyptians worshipped the eye too. Yeah. And like Horus was the god of attention. So it's like, for me, when I had this symbol explained, there's so much about even our own culture and our own tradition that we don't understand. It's not articulated yet. It's still like enshrouded in symbol and drama and art, and then we're just getting to a point of being able to articulate them further. But so say that symbol of the pyramid. So a pyramid is like naturally a hierarchical structure. I mean, we organize all sorts of things in that symbolic way, where it's like things that are less ideal or more foundational perhaps are at the bottom, and then higher order things are on top of that, and the things underneath that first layer are subordinate to the things on top. And then there's this hierarchical structure going up and up. So what would be the supreme idea at the top of it that everything else has to be subordinate to? And so the I being on top could be attention, or could be consciousness, like that just sheer and utter awareness in and of itself is the primordial thing to which all of our other value structures need to be subordinated to. Otherwise, it doesn't work. And then even the fact that the I is elevated above slightly the rest of the pyramid is that the I is higher than everything else. It can literally see everything else and understand it as if it's like an eagle flying over a landscape or something.
And yet, it doesn't have any purpose or value if that pyramid isn't sitting below it with all the lesser things.
Yeah.
And it's like the human life. The consciousness is great, and looking for the purpose and God and all of it is great. But we also chose to live these imperfect, flawed, lowly human lives. Like if any of that is true, there was still a choice. Right? You still need, if you're going to hold up this consciousness as the all, there still needs to be everything below it to look up and to try to arrive there.
That's like this line, I think it's kind of like a Zen koan, but it's not actually a Zen koan, I'm not sure, but it's like, what would God, and you could, like God being synonymous with the all-knowing, all-pervading, omnipresent, omnipotent creator of everything, sheer infinite in every way, what is that thing lacking? And the answer is, it's lacking limitation.
Yeah.
And that idea really punched me in the guts when I heard it.
Oh yeah, that one's gonna need some time. That's cool. Like, that's one that you're just like, oh yeah, what? Oh no. Yeah? What? My brain just doesn't even want to hold on to it right now. It's like, no, let's not think about that right now. That's funny. Oh man, cool. I'm gonna appreciate thinking about that for sure.
Yeah, that's one I chew on a lot, even still. That's one thing I love about some of these great ideas that people from today or from the past have. One thing that's amazing is just there were sheer and utter geniuses who have existed, and they wrote shit down, and we can read it.
I know,
we can,
right?
like, skip through if we really consider what they were saying, that there might be some value to it, we can theoretically skip through their whole lifelong thinking process to arrive at some of these ideas. And some of these ideas that are just, you can spend years thinking about them. There's just so much depth to them.
Think of all the geniuses who didn't write anything down.
Oh, I know. But geniuses who just never even got to learn to write.
I think of that sometimes when we label, like, this is the fastest man on earth. And I'm like, isn't he just the fastest man we know about?
He's the fastest man we've clocked.
Like, there's a whole bunch of other dudes who are just running from tigers or, like, just, like, there's a whole bunch of people doing stuff without ever letting anyone know they've done it. Like, me as a writer, there came a point when I was like, for the longest time, I told myself I was only a writer if everybody knew it. You're only a writer when you sell your book. You're only a writer when you're successful. You're only a writer when. And then I was like, holy shit. Like, when I started practicing non-attachment, I was like, you also need to be non-attached to this. You're basing your whole life and worth on the fact that somebody needs to know about this. You are a writer because you're a writer. You need to know that nobody else might ever know it but you. And it's still true. And, like, that's the thing. All of it's true whether anybody knows about it or not. People have had beautiful, amazing thoughts whether anybody's ever heard them or not.
Yeah.
Some of them will get heard and a million more won't. They're still all true. They still all happened.
Yeah.
Right?
That's one thing that I think about too, with even just like, so our written down history that we have only goes back so far. But what about cultures that maybe have been around before that just sheer and utter time has erased more or less, and we just, like, how many times have we gotten so far and then meteor or something, you know?
Still all happened.
Yeah, and just lost in time.
Yeah.
But that's one thing that I've been thinking about too, is how modern day science it's just out of its sheer function, it removes the subjective because it's trying to say what is objective, what's true, regardless of who's looking at it. And so obviously the benefits are self-evident. But it's kind of produced this nihilism in the culture where it killed God and it killed subjective experience as being a valid thing in some way. But you could posit from a phenomenological standpoint or an existential standpoint that your own subjective experience is the most true thing.
Yes.
And it's like people feel small in comparison to the grandness size of the universe. It's so many infinite amount of kilometers big. But it's like, what's bigger? Consciousness or the sheer physical space that everything in the universe is occurring in? And that's why we love art and movies and drama, because a narrative, a real good story, doesn't just talk about what the objects in the world are. It talks about pain and hunger and thirst and seeing things and
the experience of it all.
The experience, the lived experience. And so that's what's important. And the fact that is an important thing is, like, not collectively understood by our culture as a whole. But I think that there's a hole in our psyches that's kind of part of the reason that you see so much yoga and meditation and stuff kind of swarming in, because there's a huge hole in our society since, you know, science killed our God, and
we're looking for meaning.
We're looking for meaning,
Yeah, and it could be anything, that meaning, right? Like, I think we're just looking again for that idea that we're part of something bigger, but we want proof. And I think in this spiritual realm and yoga or meditation, the proof is in those moments, that wordless affirmation. I'm connected to something. I just felt something that was bigger than myself. Or had that moment again of awe or amazement or sensation or something that, you know, I can't even give a voice to. Oh my goodness. Yeah. Interrupted by a cat.
That's fine. Cats are welcome. I have a pregnant cat at my house right now. If anyone's going to want kittens, I'm going to have some kittens soon. Yeah.
Oh, God. Okay. Good to know.
Yeah.
I would never say no to kittens, but there's another person in the house with an opinion.
Yeah, absolutely. And
so.
It's a serious undertaking.
It is.
I mean, as independent as cats are, it's still
it is
another mouth to feed. But yeah. Well, maybe that'd be a good place to wrap this up.
Cool. Interrupted by a kitten. Yeah?
Right.
That's on. The universe telling us to
pay attention to the cat instead.
Yeah, cool.
All right. Well, do you have any things you want to plug? Where can people find a class of yours, or social media or anything like that?
Social media, easiest way to find me is Nikki Possibilities, NIKKI_possibilities on Instagram. I teach it on the mat in Halifax. I teach at Rio in the North End. I teach at Shanti Hot Yoga in Bedford. And I love when new people show up in yoga. One of my favorite things. Not every teacher loves it, but I love a room with new bodies. It reminds me to pay attention, to teach the simple stuff. And I just like introducing people to the practice. So I'm never going to shy away from having new people in the room. So if you're listening and you're unsure, show up in my class. I'll be absolutely thrilled.
Awesome. You won't regret it. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
We'll have to do it again sometime.
So great, for sure.
Cool. Peace out, everyone.